Can we Zambians do politics of realistic? Can we help our generations to come? Can we learn to speak the truth that even when you go back to your home, Mr. Musumali, your children and your wife will give you dignity of things that you come to the media. You sell the paper, you sell the party as it is, and do not bring issues of crossing and the post and he did this. If I can tell you to say, members destroyed this country. Today we are talking about tribalism. We are fighting between regions and regions. All that because member had something interest to do with this. What did member do to this country? A lot of people are suffering. Sakaras were sentenced in jail because of member. Judiciary was messed because of member. Member was a very selfish man. And you are going to find it very difficult to clean men. You do not know how many things our brother member did. People arrested even as I speak. People like Chiruba died because of the forces of member. Because he wanted to achieve what he wanted to achieve. Today he wants to come and clean him. To the Zambian people, no. Zambians, please, can we stand for the truth? Why do we want to destroy this country? Because of money. Money will be there and the money will never finish. But let's keep our integrity. Go and see how many people have suffered because of members. People go around and see how he fought his political enemies using the paper. When he doesn't like somebody, he will make sure that somebody sinks down. We all know all these things. We know others are victims. We are victims. Today, Musumali, you want to come and stand and speak to the Zambian people to fool them, asking for sympathy. When tribalism has been injected by members, Tongas were insulted, were called Bantuan. Today you want to say member brought peace? What peace? You people don't take this country as special. We are suffering because of common policy. Terrorists have been forced to kill this country. And this is why they're bringing people from the Cuba. People are launching political parties within the Zambian people. Why bringing people from Cuba? Because he knows he wants to siphon money and bring in this country to bring confusion. You Zambian people, we have a problem because of the debt that we have in our hands. Can we remove the head? I'm very upset with you, Musumali. Can you tell the Zambians the truth? They will totally know.
Barry, thank you very much for getting in touch with us. Thank you very much indeed. Brian touches on some of the issues that Barry raises. Brian says member is responsible for tribalism that we're seeing and sung by politicians today. His editorial had potentially divided this country. Member concentrated much on personality and hatred. I hope he will change and he will not champion the same hatred against his fellow politicians. That's from Brian. Do you want to quickly respond to those two if you can very quickly, and then I'll go back to the comments?
Yes. Let me start with Derek. He raises the issues of the right to form political parties and that the political parties that are not marketable or they're not accepted will just die natural death. And I agree with him. I think that Zambians should have the right to form their political parties, and it's up to the Zambians to accept them or to reject them. And over time, the most successful political parties with a clear message for Zambians will be successful and will influence the political climate of our country. And he raised the issue of the post being closed and that it was sad. And what are the lessons that can be drawn from that, since it is the same PF government
that was supported by the post.
That is supported. Again, I think if we get back to the prior 2011 situation, we had a government in power that was the NMG government. And it was quite apparent that this government was not going to take Zambians anywhere. The levels of corruption were not reducing. And as I said again, Membe, although being in the media, was at the same time a political animal, and he never hid the political inclinations that he had. Michael Sata, at that point, seemed to be the person who would stand for the poor people. So his support to Michael Sata and the PF was based exactly on that. It was the realization that the PF, as it stood then, as it was structured then, was more of a better organization to serve the masses of the Zambian people. But the situation changed. Michael Sata departed. He saw rest in peace. And the ones that took over did not necessarily share those same sentiments for the Zambians. And that relationship soured. And the rest is history. So what are the lessons? The lessons are that whatever you do in life, it's always yours. It can backfire against you. But does that mean we should never take action and support progressive causes? The answer is no. Let me come to Mbewe, who says he's upset, who says we are bringing in propaganda, and he makes a huge accusation that Mbewe is a tribalist. We are back again to the issue of discerning what is truthful and what are lies. I said, if you know Freddie Membe, you can attach him to 9 different ethnic groups in Zambia. Freddie Membe, from what Mr. Membe was talking about, that the Tongas are suffering, is part of the Tongas. He has connections in the Kawamo area. Freddie Membe has connections in terms of his origin, Western Province. He has connections in Wakura Province. He has connections in Northern Province. Freddie Membe is not a tribalist. If anything, he fights anything that's tribal. He fights organizations that are narrow in their thinking, and they're just looking at one particular ethnic group. Freddie Membe, he said, what led to the arrest of people, and I think being mentioned, I don't know that mentioned those names.
I don't think it's necessary.
No, it's not necessary. But let's look at it a little bit more objectively. Was Freddie Membe controlling the judiciary? Was Freddie Membe controlling the entire government? Was Freddie Membe in control of all the processes that lead to somebody being arrested, that lead to somebody being incarcerated for a number of years and all that? The media is powerful indeed, but the media cannot control the whole state organ. So I think it's very unfair and unacceptable that issues which many Zambians cheered and greeted at that time, that we're moving in the right direction in the anti-corruption fight, today are being turned over, that these were the machinations of Freddie Membe. We have to rewrite our history. We have to own to being truthful. And we cannot move forward as a country if, for example, processes that regard the state and the entire society can all be narrowed down, and then an individual singled out and said it have caused all this. The post had a say, the post had influence, but the post was not the entire state. And accusing a member of having fermented tribalism, of having gotten people arrested, Zambians suffering poverty and all this because of this individual, I don't think that's a fair assessment of the situation. Let's sit, let's reflect a little bit more critical.
There was just one other I want you to touch on, and then I'll go to the one that Mbewe raised. Mbewe disagreed when you said Fred wasn't in it for business.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I think let's make a distinction. What I was saying is that the business was not an end in itself, Fred. The business had a political character, and that political character was increasing the democratic space of Zambia. He came to this idea immediately around 1991. Instead of joining the political scene, that's MMD, and participating in the MMD, he said, we are going to face a tough situation. In Zambia, we have a media that is pro-government, sponsored by government. We do not have a strong private media, and we need those checks and balances. That was the driving force why he went into the media. It was not about journalism. It was not about being rich. Yes, so that's what I was trying to say. Did the Post make money? Did the Post grow? Yes, it did grow. But the intention, the driving force, was that democratic space building, and not necessarily that he becomes a very person.
Okay. Hello, good morning. Morning, Proud.
Good morning, sir.
You are talking to Dr. Proud.
Dr. Proud.
I was monitoring your role from your rally in the certain media. Any of you other people that have questioned you about promoting tribalism, where you are going at other people, you should apologize. You know there is some musician also who say you are better to be taken than to belong to this tribe. Although they should not forget it. Tomorrow they can change their own program to come as a politician. How would you take a vote where you sound people like a chicken? Now to come to the topic right now. The good presentation at DBM are listening in neighbors Mumba or the people we say and it's Bagape. When you are forming a political party, Mr. Musumali, you target what you want to achieve. You want it to travel. The same way we are running in Mandela as a country. We pay for the South African government over the rest of mother for Africa. If you want to come with the government, you want to travel. You want to rule people. For example, you, Mr. Musumali. If you can target to say, in my party, I want to form a political party because I want to open a certain industry such as is going to employ you. One of them is long as this council pump a lot of billion in home affairs, in the police, in the defense. You pump a lot of billion, you are going to see youth underemployed, including road sector, including health. Right now, when you go, we got a judge from Rusaka to Mateo. Not even the government minister tour. We got a mother bat which we used to produce. With so many people go and visit the countries. Some of them were taking hand of pump that they are not making. But here is that. All those are issues, including Morocco sector. If you are with this, you are with this, and you could walk over from Blue Hill Plain. Which means the country.
Thank you very much, Proud. Hello, good morning. Hello. Hello, good morning. Hello. Good morning.
Hello. Yes, good morning. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. What's your name, sir?
My name is
Oh, go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Musumali.
Hey, good morning, sir.
The first question I have for you is why did you run away from Winter Kavima? The same party you ran away, the Socialist Party. You came to join Freddie Membe. Like the previous callers have said, Freddie Membe is a vengeful man. And Freddie Membe has destroyed this country. It doesn't mean that when Freddie Membe can write a paper and talk in the newspaper, he's a good leader who can lead it. For me, he has formed this party in order to come back for President Edgar Chagwarungu. He's so vengeful and hateful. He's a tribalist who needs not to be entertained in this country. For me, Freddie Membe, for me, I think he's very unpatriotic. He's a person who can't even pay tax to his own people, his own country. For me, Freddie Membe deserves a brush in this country. He doesn't even need to be voted for in this country. He's one of the persons who have destroyed this. He has brought so much hatred. Even these opposition leaders who are supporting him today are victims of Freddie Membe. HH is a victim of Freddie Membe. He used to call HH a lot of names. Freddie Membe himself. And today he will come with his head high to say he's going to form a party in this country. What hypocrisy is this? Freddie Membe does not even deserve to be in the political arena. That person is a destroyer. We shall make sure that we shall decampaign him. The people of Zambia know the caliber of the president we have now. President Edgar Chagwarungu has been the president for this country for
only a short time, but we have seen the fruits of President Edgar Chagwalungu. These people who are coming now, people like Freddie Membe, who can even free his own country to run away from cases because of his patriotism. Today is becoming a party fighting dignitaries from other countries. Why? He wrote that the party knew that the party was for foreigners. They want to approach me in Cuba.
Elvis. Elvis. Yes. Elvis, thank you very much, Elvis. Hello, good morning. Good morning, how are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, sir.
Yes, Mr. Manda, go ahead.
Yes, from previous scholars, I think Dr. Musumali, you have a lot of work to do. I'm a socialist myself, and I find nothing, completely nothing, in Mr. David becoming a president for this country. He's among the best, even those presidents some people have heard, is far better, in my view. I've had a chance when he briefly was in the range, I've had a chance to personally interact with him during some seminars. Now, you have a very big task to clean up the name. And this I've told you, I've told you, Comrade Winter about this thing. Yes, I don't know. Whatever. Because the people maybe fear them, their straightforwardness, whatever. Now, I think as socialists, we need, first of all, to clear the impression that is caused by these other people, especially capitalists, that socialism cannot work. Secondly, the personal integrity of these people. And thirdly, the people themselves, the voters, we need to work hard to change their mindset. What they've been told these other lies, like members, what things they've not done, things it is not. So there is a very, very big problem here. And I personally believe the socialists can be the best for the country to improve economy, to improve everything for the country, to bridge the differences, the economical differences for the people, and these other things, to bring employment, to bring everything. The socialism can do that. Thank you.
Mulanda, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Just before you come in, I'll take one more. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Oh, okay, nobody there. Kilab, I'll go to the text and Kilab says, kindly find out if the Socialist Party believes in democracy, as most countries practicing it are almost dictatorship. And then let me add Cuba as well, because I mean, Cuba isn't the best example of a democratic country. And then Kilab adds, was the picking of Dr. Membe democratically elected as a presidential candidate, or was he handpicked? Mr. Musumali, please tell people the truth. The reason why Membe supported the SATA, because Repair Banda started demanding for payment of a bulk of tax. Hence, he wanted to run to SATA so that he can be spared. It's surprising now that Membe wants to rule a country which he failed to pay taxes to for a long time, despite making huge sums of profit. Mr. Musumali, some scholars have defined socialism as any of various economic and political theories advocating collective or governmental ownership and administration of the means of production and distribution of goods. With the central government owning all means of production and distribution, there can be no competition. It's for this reason why I think socialism is inefficient, because it makes economic calculation impossible. It somehow promotes laziness. That's from Mr. Temple, the wise man from the East. Someone else adds, is Fred Membe depressed or frustrated or indeed angry that his paper was closed, and use this as a basis of becoming a Republican or a presidential candidate? And how fair will the reporting by the mast be, seeing as it's run by his wife? Let me see, there's one other text. Okay, actually, there is another. Okay, do you want to quickly respond?
Yes.
So a few of them in 2 minutes, and then I'll take news break, and then I'll come back and take some more.
Again, we have to start thinking differently as a country and also as a people. Fred did not form the Socialist Party. I think let's get that clear. You don't form a party, a socialist party, as an individual. A socialist party is a collective. It's an endeavor of several people. And Fred Membe is a member of the Socialist Party. So it's not maybe like the other parties where you have an individual who stands up and say, I have got billions or millions of kwacha, and I'm going to use that for a party. He is our member, and he is a leader within the Socialist Party. So the insinuations, this is Membe's party, it stands like Membe woke up one day and said, I now want a Socialist Party, and all of you people around me come and work for me. That's not how it works in our party. So it's a very wrong conception. The second issue, Fred never ran out of Zambia. Fred is not a coward. He has never been, and he will never be. He has demonstrated his courage, his strength, over more than 25, 26 years now. Membe was in this country. Any reports you got that he jumped over a wall fence, he left Zambia, he was out of Zambia, all these were lies. And because you are getting information from single sources, you have come to believe those lies. He never left Zambia. If you go and ask a lot of people today in different districts, he was there, they saw him. The other issue that's coming out is one of Fred Membe not being a patriot. If there are people in Zambia that are patriotic, that love this country, Fred Membe is one of them. I'm yet to meet not even people that are in government today that are as patriotic as Fred Membe is. But why is Fred Membe attracting all this criticism? The explanation is very clear. He's a danger. A danger in the sense that he has always stood for what is right, and Fred Membe is believable. Yes, Fred Membe in his attack, in his work, and trying to be honest and truthful, he has injured many people. And those people have not taken it kindly. Do we have a duty to clean Fred Membe? Fred Membe doesn't need cleaning. I think what the people of Zambia need is to be told the truth in terms of what transpired. And that's what we have to do. This is not cleaning. He's not dirty. This is a very clean person. This is a very straightforward person. The fact that the dirt was being spread around does not necessarily mean that we have a duty now to start tuning the narrative. We're not creating any lies. We are just telling the story the way it is. We don't need to tell lies. And socialism is not about telling lies. Then there are other questions.
Just before we come to the other question, let me just take news headlines and then I'll come back. Just keep that thought.
The African News headlines on Phoenix FM.
Rights warrior Mama Winnie honored. Israel suspends plan to send African migrants to West. Details in African News at 12.
The African News headlines on Phoenix FM.
Thanks, Patty. You had one last thought. I know I cut you mid-sentence.
Yes, there was a whole issue about the issue of socialism. What is socialism, inefficiency, and all that.
The definition of
the definition
by some scholars.
Yeah. Of course, just like capitalism, if I did ask what is capitalism, we'll get maybe 1 million definitions of what capitalism is. But let's narrow it down to the core values. I think that's the easier way of understanding any system. Again, socialism is about equity. Equity in education, in health, in all basic needs of the human being. That's what socialism is. Socialism believes in honesty, they believe in humility, and they believe in solidarity. So anything else is extra. But those are the core values of socialism. But to achieve those, you have to wage a class struggle. The class struggle simply means society is ordinarily divided. You have the rich, you have the poor. You have the working class, you have the capitalists. And those values of socialism are contradictory to the interests of the ruling class. So for the masses of the people that are suffering, the peasants, the workers, the unemployed, the students, for them to live dignified lives, that is not possible, especially under what we call the periphery capitalism that we have in Zambia. So they need to wage that class struggle. They have to attain power. And the values of that society have to look different. It's transformative. It's not business as usual.
Here's what confuses me. Technically, we're all socialists.
No.
If the reason why we aspire to be president, if I aspire to be president, I would want the people to do well, isn't it? Isn't that correct?
No, that's not true. The majority under capitalism aspire because they want to protect the interests of capital. These are people that will come in and say, we want to privatize. We want to put wealth in the hands of a few individuals. These are politicians that say the Zambian worker does not need to enjoy permanent employment. Let's put them on short-term contracts. Let's casualize it. These are people who change the labor laws to make them what they call flexible. But in actual fact, what you are doing is you are creating destitution within the labor force. But this is packaged very nicely. They will talk of foreign direct investment in a very technical and at times very Jewish way. But all they are telling you is that let foreigners come here, let them steal the wealth of your country, and you are going to get the crumbs from your wealth. So, and they become rich from the kickbacks of international capital. They are the ones that give red carpets to those that come to exploit our wealth and our people. But at the same time, they'll turn away a few people that are coming to come and rejoice with us. So politicians of a capitalist nature or petty bourgeois nature are not interested in the welfare of the masses of people. But they can't say it directly, they can't say it openly, because it won't buy them the votes. So they promise the people, and listen to the language that they use. They say, I will do it. I will do it. They don't talk about the entire system. No single individual is capable of doing so much for everyone. It has to be the collective effort of the masses themselves. It's a question of empowering the people, changing the system, removing the obstacles that stop our people from getting to schools, from getting better health, from getting better housing. And that's not an act of charity. That is something you do by reconstructing your society, ensuring that there's no Zambian who does not attain grade 12 education. There's no Zambian who is willing but cannot attain tertiary education. We are very far away from that. That's not the aspirations of the politicians. That's why within months of getting into power, they become very rich. Their agenda has nothing to do with it.
The question here, please explain how individuals that have done well for themselves as capitalists can come and advocate for capitalistic ideals. Isn't this a ploy to protect business interests by hiding behind political persecution? Maybe he repeated the capitalistic ideas. Maybe it was supposed to be socialism ideals.
I thought so. Yeah. I guess that is, again, not being straight. That's not being honest. I think it's still referring to Fred Member. Yeah. That he was with the post.
Yes.
And then the post is no longer there. And now he's coming in under the disguise of socialism. But this is just a way of getting to do business later. Yeah.
I mean, essentially, Dr. Musumali, essentially the question is here. If I'm a businessman, a businessman who has profited from a system that we've been under in past 20, 25 years, which is a capitalist system, right? How then can I turn around and say, I now support, I want to push the agenda of socialism, having benefited from a system of capitalism, and B, being a businessman. And let's not lie, all businessmen are technically, they're all about profits. There's nothing else. I mean, we can skirt around the truth here, but to be honest, every single businessman only cares about profit. That's why they're in business.
Yes. If you go into business and you want to be rich, Fred Remember didn't go in business so that he becomes rich. I've emphasized that. Fred Remember had.
But nobody goes into business not to become rich. That's why we go into business.
No. Why do political parties run businesses? We have political parties that run businesses. Are they going to business to become rich? No. Business is a tool. The business is a platform to generate resources. And those resources, you use them for political ends. And that's what Fred did. So business can be an end in itself, in the sense that you want to go into business, you want to become rich. So what when you're rich? What do you do with your richness? Yeah. So, but indeed, if you live under capitalism, you need the resources. And he did that. But he did that not because he wanted it as an end in itself for himself. He went in it as soon as Zambia opened the democratic space in 1991. He went in it because he knew the media coverage in Zambia was very biased. And that was his aim. So today, even the PF is running businesses. Are those businesses there to make sure that they are rich? No. Those businesses are conduits in order for them to raise the resources to fundraise so that they can carry out their political agenda. Why should it be different for Fred and what he did?
Okay. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello. Morning, how are you, sir? All right, thank you. What's your name? Morgan, go ahead, Morgan.
I'm good, thank you. How are you, sir?
Use the time I want just to summarize the question. If you have to form the Socialist Party, is the Socialist Party democratic? Because when I saw in the other countries they are socialists, talk about Cuba, Fidel Castro. How many years did Fidel Castro rule? In Brazil, in China, in other countries in Asia. So the question what I want, what is different, capitalist and socialist, which was to bring here in Zambia? And then the last, before I go, you have said the fourth newspaper was called politically by the PF. What proof do you have? Thank you.
Do you want to read this one first?
Yeah. I think the issue of democracy and socialism has come like twice now. Yes. Again, what is democracy? Democracy, you could say, is when the majority of the people are able to make the decisions that pertain their livelihoods, that pertain their lives. So that's sort of a very broad definition of democracy. Today, the workers in Zambia, the masses who are poor, what decisions are they making and affecting their lives? The answer is none. What is happening under this structure is that you delegate your decision making to somebody else. You call them your MPs. And technically, these are supposed to be your representatives. And they go into parliament. Do they speak for the masses of the people? The answer is no. This is a small elite that captures the vote by buying that vote in most cases. And the agendas of parliament, the agendas of government, for those that are in power, have nothing to do with the majority of the people that are suffering in this country. How does socialism work? Let me just give a quick example if your time allows. If you are going to build a school in a socialist country, the first attempt you do is to ensure that every family within that community gets consulted. You have to consult them in terms of what type of school is it going to be, where it is going to be built. You have to talk in terms of the participation of the people themselves. What are they going to contribute to the construction of that school? And who are going to be the teachers? So as that process is going on and decisions are being reached collectively, we call it collective decision making, the process of budgeting and planning can go ahead. And at the end of the day, by the time the school comes into being, the people in that community would exactly know that they have recruited maybe 5, 6 of their children that had good results, and they are doing teacher training somewhere, and these are going to be the teachers. So jobs are being created within that community in terms of teaching. There are going to be maybe 2, 3 those that are going to provide security. They would have been trained to be the ones responsible for that school. Most likely 30% of the work, the labor, and so forth would have been contributed by the community itself. The architect is not going to come and make a design without actually showing to the people and the people approve it. So that's democratic, and that's how socialism works. The school is not going to be advertised and tendered, and some business person from Osaka comes in and does a shoddy job for some time and leaves the school standing. And when it is completely done after 2 or 3 years, the people are called in to come and dance. No, that's not how a socialist project works. A socialist project respects the participation of the people. It's based on transparency. It's based on the fact that people are making collective decisions. So that's just a simple example how a socialist project, an activity at a community level in terms of building a school would look like. You are creating more jobs that way. You are creating awareness that way. And you're allowing the people in a pedagogical way also to start learning how to make decisions of activities that concern them. And I've not seen a country in this world that does it so well like Cuba. Cubans in all walks of life, wherever they are, they make decisions in terms of what concerns them. There are debates that take days, that take months before something is agreed upon, because everyone has to buy in. Even the person you think is bringing a negative opinion, you have to listen to them. And that's how socialism works. What we have in the so-called Western democracy is fake. It's very fake, it's very artificial. It does not really change the lives of our people. Just like here in Zambia, we say we're a democratic country. There's no democracy in Zambia. The people in Chiluvi Island, the people in Shangombo, the people in Chivolia, please go there and talk to them. Ask them what they have contributed, which decisions they are participating in that affect them, nothing at all. And this democracy is mere rhetoric and nothing else. Socialism does things very different. The presence of opposition political parties does not necessarily signify high levels of democracy. And the ones that say there's no opposition in Cuba, please take time, visit the country, and see what goes on there. I think you're talking a lot out of a very uninformed position.
Okay. I actually wanted to add on exactly what you just said, because one of the things that the press aide said was obviously that there's no opposition in Cuba, but I also wanted to make an addition. One of the things you said very, very early on in our conversation was you spoke about how Fred. See if I can quote you. I know you're sitting next to me, so let me see if I can quote you. But I think you said something like Fred was inspired by Cuba many, many years ago. This didn't happen 2 years ago. This happened many, many years ago. Am I correct?
Fred and I come a long way. Actually, maybe it's the right to say that. We come a long way. I think we met when we were teenagers, and that was at the University of Zambia. We were in a group of Marxist-Leninists, and so socialism or Marxism for us became the liberating ideology. We realized that the problems of our continent, the subjugation, the inhumanity that Africans are facing today are tied to a system called capitalism, and capitalism cannot be the solution. And Cuba has always been for us a sign of resilience. It has always been a sign of what is possible in a short period of human history. And today we are benefiting from Cuba. It's not a rich country. Even a country like South Africa is, in terms of mineral resources, much richer than Cuba. But South Africa is benefiting a lot from Cuban generosity. A country as big as Brazil, which withholds wealth today, is depending on about 11 to 12,000 Cuban medical doctors that are here providing public health in the rural areas of Brazil. The US itself is sending its students to Cuba to go and learn public health. So this is the country that has achieved a lot despite the embargo and despite all the difficulties that it has gone through. What we need to do is respect a country like Cuba. I don't think us as Zambians, arrogance and what we are saying about that country, we are being helpful to the situation.
Let me give this analogy then. Would it be correct to say that we should aspire to be like the Chinese, and the way that the Chinese govern the system is? I know it's too different, but
Zambia is going to be Zambia. Zambia isn't going to be Cuba. Zambia isn't going to be China. Socialism.
But if that's where you draw your inspiration from, I mean, if I draw my inspiration from China, would it be wrong for someone to come here and say,
we want to be China?
No. Would it be wrong for someone to come here and say, well, look, Lucci aspires, and he's inspired by the way the Chinese run their system of governance just now, just recently, they've announced the life presidency. That's the route that he might want to take because that's where he draws his inspiration from. Do you see the...
No.
Yeah.
Socialism doesn't have a blueprint that says it happened this way in China. Even the Chinese are saying this is socialism with Chinese characteristics. Read the constitution, read the recent program from the Congress, and the political debate that's going on within the Communist Party and so forth. You'll see this. They are very conscious of the geopolitical situation they find themselves in. They are defining socialism to meet their ends. And Cuba became Cuba because of what it is and where it is located. And Zambia is going to do the same. We are socialists in Zambia. We are closely following what's happening in Cuba. We are closely following what's happening in Venezuela, what's happening in Brazil, and many countries that are taking that trajectory. And we have the comfort and also the privilege to learn from both their mistakes and also their successes. So this is going to be a Zambian reality, and our mandate today is to tell Zambians the vision of socialism or how socialism is going to be implemented in Zambia. So it will be wrong to say Zambia is going to be like Cuba, Zambia is going to be like China. But let's talk about the values. The values that are going to be there will be good.
Okay. One of the things that you said, and you're correct, you may not have said it today, but I think somebody may have overheard you saying this past weekend. You told the public that it wasn't easy to convince Mr. Membe to accept the position of president. Is that
Yes,
true or false?
okay.
So then, follow-up questions then. Why force someone who doesn't have ambitions to become president? A. Secondly, if he doesn't have a vision for this country, who is to blame? Thirdly, you said Membe refused to become president of the party if you did become it twice. Is there something that you share in common with Membe? We've already explained that, so you don't need to answer that, but you explained that briefly. Was it the will of your members that Membe becomes presidential candidate and you become the vice?
First, indeed, it's true that Membe, although was a member, and is a member of the Socialist Party, saw in me the person who was going to be in that position, to be the presidential candidate. And I was tasked by members of our party to come up with suggestions, both in terms of the leadership, the top leadership, the presidential candidate, and also the Politburo and the members of the Central Committee. So that was the mandate I was given. But that mandate will then be subjected to a Congress. Our Congress should take place in September 2019. So it's the Congress that's going to validate, approve. And within the Congress also, there will be people that may stand and say, I want to be considered for this. But for now, we needed names to front there. And when you front, you have been given the mandate to come up with that list. You don't do it in isolation. you go talk to as many members of the party as possible. And I did a lot of wide consultations. So there were wide consultations. And these consultations took us almost a year. And in that year, we were debating what are the advantages, disadvantages of putting certain names, certain personalities, those responsibilities. The issue is that we have to make certain decisions, and the member for us was one of those people that I thought, and many people also recommended that would be a good president for Zambia. He'll be president that Zambia has not seen in ages. He's committed, he's a patriot, he's courageous, and entirely ascribes to issues of equity. So that decision was not very difficult to make. But I presented that to him because I had consultants. I presented that to him. I said, I've listened very carefully to what people are saying within the party, outside of the party, and you are going to be a presidential candidate. And his take was, I've always worked in the background, I've always been a consultant, and going out there may need some great adjustments. I said, yes, we'll work together to make those readjustments. That's what we're going to do. So those readjustments means that the person who was always quiet, things were being said about him, and he never responded. This time, that's not possible. He has to come out in the open. Does Member have a vision for Zambia? I'm not sure that there are many Zambians that have a vision for Zambia better than Member. But his vision is not just of an individual. We're talking about a vision of the party. So it's not like making it alone. He's buying and contributing to a collective decision that we make as a party. And why the two of us?
I know you've already touched on your background.
He talked of chemistry. He said this requires a lot of work. And given the fact that we have worked a lot together, it's easier to communicate, it's easier to do a lot of other things. So that was his request. And I accepted that request.
Okay. One last question. People picking holes from some of the things that you've been saying this morning. Something that you said this morning, you talked about Fred Member always being political.
Yeah,
that's correct. Even while the post was running.
Yes,
would it be correct?
That was clear, isn't it? That was very clear that Member already had a political stand.
Yeah. Would it be correct then to say that the post was political even then?
Yes, it was a political order.
Okay. All right. Dr. Musumali, thank you very much for coming on the program this morning. Thank you very much.
It was a privilege. Thanks very much.
That's the program for Big On. Started a bit late, finished very late, but thank you very much indeed for listening to this program. We're back again on Friday for another edition of Let It Go.
Listening to Phoenix FM. Only the best is here. Are you looking for a reliable yet cheap goods for China?
Thank you very much.
We ship goods from China to